there, everybody. It's the Skeletalbassman here.
And I am the Nightman.
And together we're the Sci-Fi Guys. And this week, straight off the back of our Get Out review, we are now bringing you Disney's magical, mysterious, epic, classic Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, and let me just say before we start this, the Skeletalbassman got to see this movie comfortably at a late night viewing with his girlfriend, you know, and I saw this as a matinee by myself. So we had two completely different theater experiences. So that's
I had a great time up in the adults-only balcony drinking wine, and the Nightman is now a registered sex offender. So
yeah, so we gotta watch out for that.
Show me the girl.
Look at her. What if she is the one? The one who'll break the spell?
Hello. You can talk.
Well, of course he can talk.
Hello. Pleased to meet you.
The Master's not as terrible as he appears.
So, what'd you think?
I hated it. I hated every second of it, but, you know. That's just me. I was so uncomfortable in that theater. I wanted to end, like, seconds after it started.
So how much of your discomfort or your lack of enjoyment of this movie was down to just the circumstances of you watching it, and how much of it was actually down to Beauty and the Beast itself?
I want to say, I don't know, it was about 50-50.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
I don't know. If the movie was a good kids movie, then, you know, I can get through those, you know? Like most Pixar's I get through and in fact enjoy. But yeah, this is just a Rotten Tomato, if you know that expression.
I'm sorry, what does Rotten Tomato mean?
A Rotten Tomato is like, so there's like
it's something that never exists anymore because Rotten Tomatoes is a fucking shill of a website that every movie is a 99%. Anyway, yeah, I agree with you. I hated this movie. I really, 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 really hated this movie. I hate this movie more than any movie we've seen so far.
And that's saying a lot because
yeah.
We've seen some pretty bad ones. What was one of the ones that we saw that was not so great?
Silence was awful.
Oh yes, Silence. I forgot about that movie. It just completely left my brain. I had to make space for other stuff.
Yeah, that was so rough. My experience in the theater, it was packed, and it was all like, okay, you know, you went to high school or college, right, and you just had a bunch of friends who love Harry Potter. Okay, there's nothing wrong with liking Harry Potter as a franchise, but these were the people who they love it too much, where everything, even now that they're like 30 years old, is a Hogwarts reference. They're like, I'm still waiting for my letter. And you're like 35. Your f***ing kid's gonna be getting their letter soon. Like, your letter ain't coming. You're a dirty muggle, alright? Like,
dirty mudblood.
You're a dirty mudblood. And those people were in the audience with me. And I'd say there were about 5 of them that loved this movie and insisted on clapping.
Were they singing along and clapping?
They weren't singing along, but they kept trying to start applause after every musical number.
Oh, no!
And the audience was not having it. Our audience was not enjoying ourselves at all. At all. When the movie ended, I think in a theater of maybe 200 people, 10 people clapped. And like really awkwardly where it's like...
Oh man, I darted out of the theater so quick. You should have seen me. It was just like, pew! I gotta get out of here. I was like a bullet.
It's because the FBI was on your tail.
Oh, and the other thing that I haven't told you is that for like the first half of the movie, they didn't have the 3D sorted out, so it was just like that headache-inducing crossfade of 2 images. And then they finally they slid some lens over it, and it all fit into place. But my God, it was just like. Oh man, yeah.
Oh my God.
And yeah, surrounded by little. It was a matinee for me, which makes a whole lot of sense now in retrospect. But yeah, I was just surrounded by like little girls. I didn't have like the Harry Potter people that you had. It was just little kids, and I was in a kids movie. It was like that. It was like that one time I went with my brother. There was like a Harry Potter spoof play in Boston, in one of the theaters. And we went and we thought this was going to be some like raunchy adult like Harry Potter spoof thing.
Oh yeah.
But it was like a 2-man kids show. So me and my brother are sitting there. Oh my god, we weren't even like in the back too. We were like close to the front row. Oh man, it was embarrassing. There was like all these like kids activities, and we were like playing with fucking beach volleyballs. Oh man.
Oh my! Why didn't you get up and leave?
Because we paid money. We could pay good money for it.
I guess so.
It was mildly entertaining as well. Anyway,
all right.
That's what this felt like to me.
Sounds about right. Yeah. So my theater experience. That was my theater experience. I hated the movie. I thought it was just garbage from start to finish. Honestly, I think this movie for me we're getting in the realm of like Suicide Squad levels of bad. I mean, really, honestly, it was that bad.
I don't think it was as bad as Suicide Squad, to be honest with you. I mean, they at least had like a decent formula to execute on, but it was completely unoriginal.
Well, hopefully,
it didn't just make no sense like fucking Suicide Squad.
Honestly, I hope when we go through this, you'll see there actually are a number of parts that are like, wait a minute, I didn't think about that because it's a fucking kids movie, but this actually made no sense. And wait a minute, this didn't make sense either. Anyway, let's jump right. Let's jipe.
Let's jipe. I think we should jipe. Let's jipe on out of here.
Let's jump on into score and sound design.
I don't know. I kind of like some of the songs from Beauty and the Beast, like some of the themes. They're really memorable, but that's just because like it's one of those classic things. I thought that the vocals though, the vocals were awful. They were so auto-tuned and artificial and overproduced. It just sounded like there was no heart, no soul in any of the songs. So while I did like the themes, I'd say the execution was pretty terrible. So I don't know, probably about like a 5 out of 10 for me.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, it did really feel like Vocaloid almost at some points.
Yes, yes, it did. Especially when Belle was singing. And my God, it was just like, isn't there something between Les Mis?
Now, prisoner 246-0-206-0-451. You're no one.
And this movie that's, not completely shit because you're having the actors sing it live.
Stole a loaf of bread.
But, not wholly overproduced. Like this movie, it's just they surgically removed all the soul out of the music,
You get real singers and you have them dub over f***ing Emma Watson's awful voice. That's what you do. I mean, that's what they do in Bollywood, right? So they can just cast beautiful people and who can't act or sing, and they just like pay someone else's voice over it. I mean, come on,
overdub the acting as well.
Yeah, or maybe here's a tip: don't cast Emma Watson.
Yeah, don't cast Emma Watson in anything, Hollywood. There you go. There's your little hint of the day.
Review over. Anyway, for me, and this is going to be the first of many similar ratings, score was a 3 for me. Basically, every song was worse than the original. The only thing that wasn't worse just in and of itself was like the Beast's Overture, the bum 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 bum, that thing.
Oh, you mean the one that goes bum 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 bum?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That one was good. I like that theme. It's like very dramatic. Everything else, I mean, it just was awful. Emma Watson can't sing. Weirdly enough, LeFou and Gaston could sing, but then their big number, like the Gaston song, in the tavern, was so muffled and poorly mic'd.
Yeah,
you actually couldn't hear any of the jokes. It's like, no one like Gaston, no one like Gaston, no one like Gaston.
That's interesting that you say that, because I thought the mixing was pretty terrible in that, because I couldn't understand a lot of the stuff in the movie, actually.
Yeah.
There was a lot of moments when I was like, what the f*** did he just... What was that?
That's why, like, when you said, like, you didn't think this is a Suicide Squad levels of bad, I actually think it is. There's stuff like mics and lighting and shooting and just, like, stuff where, okay, maybe you have some bullshit director, maybe some actor sucked somebody's dick and got the role, but you know what? The people doing the animation, doing the lighting, doing the sound design, these are all technical professionals who've trained for years, so usually that stuff's pretty dependable.
They have literally no excuse for this. This is like one of the highest budget movies you're ever going to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's Disney. It's like one of your flagship brands. Beauty and the Beast. I mean, that's your bread and butter right there. So there's no reason that we should be having, technical issues.
Anyway, there's a couple other score problems with this movie that I just wanted to get through. First of all, there were a ton of weird filler songs that were not in the original movie that they just...
I was thinking that, but I hadn't seen the original in so long. It's like, do I remember if this is a filler song or... Because I didn't remember the movie being that long.
Yeah, there were... I don't know. I never saw the stage adaptation of this because, I don't really give a shit about princess movies, to be honest with you. But there was a stage adaptation. Maybe they lifted the songs from there, or maybe they wrote them themselves. Either way, they're not good. They don't move. They don't move the story along at all. They just kind of distract from the story and suck energy out and waste time. So there's a ton of stuff like that. Another big issue that I noticed was that characters sing out of nowhere constantly with no emotional buildup. And the case in point was the second song of the movie, which was Maurice's song, Kevin Kline's song, where he's teetering away like a little old man with his clock. And you see him in his room, right? The camera pans to him. You're like, oh, okay, here we are in this scene. And then all of a sudden he goes, I am an old man. And you're just like, wait, what? Where did this song come from? In musical theater and just in any sort of musical style multimedia production in general, a character sings when their emotions well over. They've reached this emotional state that's too intense for words, for spoken word. And so now they have to sing, right? That's why you'll see scenes where it's like a guy's wife just dies and he's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and then he'll start singing. That's what that is. In this movie, people they sing out of nowhere. They just sing out of nowhere with no context. And it's just, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable.
Yeah,
and Be Our Guest was awful. That song was terrible.
I thought I was gonna get to this just in just generally bad things in the movie. But the Be Our Guest scene was just a fucking assault on my ears, eyes, everything. Just made me want to vomit. I was like, stop the ride. I want to get off.
And it wasn't even fun. It was just they took 10 crying toddlers, 3 car alarms, and Ewan McGregor doing a bad French accent, and just locked you in a garage with that with a car turned on. So you're slowly suffocating, and also you're dying from
and
sensory
also there's
overload.
An earthquake. So good luck.
And your dog just died too. So it's just...
Anyway, let's move on to settings. What did you give it?
Oh, settings. Okay, I gave settings a 3 because it was bad. I mean, it was, first of all the same places as the original, except this weird little windmill house, in Paris, I guess.
Yeah, what was that all about? I mean, what? I was like, where'd you take me? Paris. Obviously.
It's oh, yes, because Paris is very famous for its windmills.
And what?
And weird little attics where you can't see anything. And by the way, not being able to see anything is the reason why I gave settings a 3. We never get a sense of anything of scale when we're inside a building, right? I don't really understand how the town is laid out. And worst of all, I don't understand how the castle is laid out. The castle is supposed to be huge, but it feels like it's 3 rooms. It feels like a San Francisco apartment because it's all we ever see. There's no sense of scale. There's no sense of exploration. You have this story, right, where everything is supposed to represent the emotional state of our characters, right? That's why it's such a great story. So this giant empty castle is supposed to represent the beast's internal loneliness, his emptiness, right? Feels like he doesn't have a place. He feels like he has no people in his life. And we don't get any sense of that because Disney doesn't know how to shoot a movie. I mean, do you actually know what Belle's room looked like? I don't. It was a bunch of close-ups of stuff and all this weird gold shit hanging from the ceiling that was never actually explained what that was.
But it melts. Maybe it's some kind of mercury.
I thought it was mold or something. But you just don't know what's going on. I mean,
could have been.
I don't know. What did you give settings?
I gave it a 5 out of 10 for mostly the same reasons that you gave it. I mean, I thought a couple of the castle shots were okay, like the prison cell, how it had that open end of it. I thought it was kind of interesting, but it was mostly uninteresting. So
All right, well let's jump into story then. What'd you give that?
6 out of 10. I never really liked this story to begin with. This is basically just like girl develops Stockholm syndrome. What'd you give it?
So I'm actually a really big fan of the Beauty and the Beast story. So I gave it an 8. Just because like I love the story. Obviously, this should come with the caveat that they changed nothing. I mean, they changed nothing substantial about the story. It's basically the same story. So it's not really a virtue of this movie that the story is good. It's just that they're working with good source material. But on that point about the whole Stockholm Syndrome thing, I think way too many people get caught up on that because it's all I ever hear about when Beauty and the Beast comes up. How it's super chauvinist, it's super sexist, it's super aggressive, whatever. Because they think, oh, it's a story of abuse. Like, honestly, the whole captor-captive dynamic. Worn out places. And on top of that, it's just a frame to get Beauty and the Beast in the same room together, and they can't leave, so they're forced to deal with one another. If it makes it easier on you, just close your eyes and ears for the first 30 minutes of the movie and pretend there's a plague in Paris, and they all retreat into the countryside, and she winds up in this castle, and they can't leave, otherwise they'll both die. There you go. Now it's no longer captive, and now we still get to enjoy the actual point of the story, right? Which is that love is more than skin deep, right? So, I don't know. That's why I give it an 8. I think it's a good story. Beauty and the Beast is a good story, despite the bad press that it gets.
All right.
What about writing?
What did you give it?
I gave it a 2.
I gave it a 3.
It's just a really, 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 really poorly written movie. I have here in my notes, dreadful is actually the word that I used. I mean, basically, our characters have no consistent motivation at all throughout this movie. They just jump from one set of motivations to another, to another, to another, just to move the story along. It's almost as if Disney forgot what Beauty and the Beast was actually about. Like, they kind of remembered, sort of. Like, okay, well, now they need to go to the castle. Wait, okay, I think this is where they do the Gaston song, and then they go back to the castle? I don't know how they get there, though. So they just kind of make it up as they go along and change motivations to make it fit. Which is really frustrating. 2 examples of that are Gaston suddenly switching his motivation from pursuing Belle. Like, I mean, obviously he doesn't care about Belle, right? But he goes from pursuing her as a matter of pride to all of a sudden going on this Trumpian rant about the Beast and how he's an existential threat to our community, which is literally word for word what Gaston says in this movie about the Beast. And then so all of a sudden he turns into Donald Trump and he leads a charge to go kick out the immigrants. And I'm just like, what? Like, wait, where the did that come from? I mean, there's tons of ways you could have built it up, right? You like they briefly reference Gaston as a hunter, right?
No.
And then they never really bring that up again. It could have made it this whole thing like he loves the catch, he loves the chase, right? And then that fits in with Belle and the Beast. But they didn't do that because they don't know how to write. Let's see what else. Ideas are constantly introduced and then abandoned as soon as the plot just demands that we move on. Like that magic book that can take us anywhere. No explanation on how that works.
That was just completely out of nowhere.
Like how it relates to anything. The whole Maurice being a clockmaker. We don't actually know if he's selling these clocks. We don't know what he does with them. He's just like, he makes a clock and then goes and rides off into the darkness. We don't know what this whole witch enchantress thing has to do with anything.
Yeah, was that in the original, by the way? I don't recall any sort of like witch and the clockmaker subplot where she like brings him back or something.
No, that was not in the original. They threw it in there. It's so weird. The only loose end that actually gets tied up in this movie is how did Belle's mother die, which nobody fucking cares about. It's entirely irrelevant to the story.
Exactly.
But they felt the need to write in not only an extra scene, but also a plot device, i.e. this weird magic book, just so they could explain it to us. And it's like, wait, what? Like, why did you need to waste 10 more minutes of my life?
Yeah, and how was that magic trip to Paris illuminating for her? Like, how did she discover that it was, like, the plague? You know what I mean?
The Beast told her.
The Beast just told her?
Yeah, he's like, oh, your mom died of the plague.
How did he know?
he saw a doctor's mask on the floor because I guess the doctor took his mask off and then left. You see what I mean?
Right.
It's just like
The doctor's mask, yeah. Yeah, no, I gave it a 3 for those reasons. Oh, man.
What did you think about the social progressive scenes in this movie?
Like what?
The feminist scene, and then LeFou's entire character, and then the guy in drag who does like a sassy little smile and like sachets away.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's definitely
Controversial.
socially progressive, I'll say that. There's the 2 interracial couples, and then, LeFou's, like, whole gay thing. And then,
Which was every one of his lines, by the way. LeFou actually did not have a single interaction with another character.
it was great. Everyone wants representation, right? That's a great way to represent gay people.
I'm gay. Did you know I'm gay? I'm gay.
I know! I know. I got it. I got the concept.
Yeah, actually, that little feminist scene. So I did a little bit of reading. Emma Watson did an interview where she goes, "I really want to push the feminist side of Belle's character. I really want to push that, right?" And I guess her pushing it was that weird scene where she teaches the girl how to read for 30 seconds. And then the school teacher runs over and like wags his finger at her and says, No, one woman reading is enough.
Yeah, I thought that was like weirdly, like, for this nice, pleasant-looking town. I thought that was just super awkward. Is that pretty standard for that period, for that time period?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, it was so weird. And then that topic never comes up again. Like, this was written by 2-year-olds. Either by 2-year-olds or by 60-year-olds who don't know how to write. I mean, one or the other. This was not written by people writing in their prime.
And this is surprising too. I mean, because this is part of Disney's whole thing. So they're 3 movies in. This is basically their comic book universe. By the way, this is like them doing the whole Marvel comic DC thing. Is they're reviving this old series of princess and like cartoon movies for live action, for the children who grew up with it.
Yeah, for the 35-year-olds.
So they did Cinderella, and then they did it was a Jungle Book, which I watched, and it wasn't bad. It was actually pretty good. But this movie was this was their Suicide Squad.
It really felt like it. I mean, I don't know. It was just one of these kind of movies that is so bad while you're watching it. You're just like, how is it this bad? Like, I was actually interested in the movie because I was really curious to see how bad it was going to get next, and it really did get worse as it went along. Like, I think there were 5 seconds in the beginning when the opening number started, and I was like, oh, hey, this actually might be good. And then Belle opens her mouth. I'm like, oh no, just kidding. This is gonna suck. Anyway,
cinematography, 2 out of 10. Would not bang the cinematography for sure. It was just, I don't know. There was too many close shots. You know what I mean? There was no scaling. There was just a lot of shit just everywhere. Like I said, it's a f***ing assault. But it has that problem that a lot of kids movies has, where it has to like chuck shit at you, in order to keep you interested. Pixar doesn't fall into those trappings, but this movie definitely did.
Yeah, I also gave it a 2 out of 10. Again, in my notes, I say not quite as bad as Suicide Squad, but we're basically on that level. The same point you had about the scaling just being awful. The close-ups were so frustrating as a viewer. I couldn't... As somebody, like... I mean, if you were watching this movie and you just, like... you turned your brain off years ago. I mean, you probably turned your brain off in 2013, like when this country started going to shit. And so your brain's been off for years now. You haven't had an original thought. I mean, like, honestly, you sit and you wait for, like, I don't know, some YouTube channel to tell you what to think next. And so you probably would not have an issue watching this movie. But anybody who is actively thinking, using their brain, it's frustrating. The CGI was really bad too. Pretty bad.
Yeah, I thought the CGI for the Beast itself, like, he is the centerpiece of this movie. He's the Beast. And the CGI on his face was horrible.
Yep. Felt like I was in, like, 2010.
It was just...
And, like, the castle too. It was so ugly.
It's just really bad CGI.
All right, well, let's jump back up into pacing. What'd you think of that?
Well, it didn't give me any room to breathe at all. So I don't know, 5 out of 10, I'd say. I mean,
Yeah,
it wasn't
I had the same.
It wasn't awful, because it was pretty zippy. But I don't know. There was scenes that didn't need to be there, and then scenes that went like way too fast. So 5 out of 10. Yep.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have the exact same number, and the exact same comments too. Like, The only scene that I thought was truly poorly paced was the Paris scene. That scene just really, it did not need to be in this movie. Honestly, they could have cut that whole thing with the book and the mother. Just cut that out. Like it served no purpose in the story. None. It was so weird. There's so many parts of this movie. I was just asking myself, why is this in the movie? And then meanwhile, they barely motivate Belle to fall in love with the Beast. I mean, barely.
Yeah, that's always my thing with romance. Like, it needs to like develop pretty organically. Like, I need to feel it. So if you don't do that, then you got an issue, especially in a movie that's built around it.
Yeah, I mean, there was, I think I read, again, like I said, I did a little bit of reading for this, and I guess she's supposed to actually be there for about a year. She's supposed to be living in the castle for about a year with the Beast before she eventually leaves to go save Maurice.
It felt like a weekend.
Yeah, honestly, it felt like she stayed there for like 2 days, and they're just like, okay, I'm in love now. And it's just like, what? Like, oh, I have books. Some of them are in Greek. Lad, can I get another library? This one's full of Greeks.
Hey, lad, can I have a new beaker? This one is full of grease.
Oh, man.
God, it was so weird. It's like, okay, I'm in love with you now. And then, speaking of, back to the point about jumping motivations constantly, Maurice gets thrown in jail or whatever, and she's like, I have to go to him. And the Beast, who is looking at the last petal on the flower, literally he's about to die, and all his friends and family are gonna die in front of him and turn into a feather duster. And he doesn't, there's not a single moment of hesitation. He just instantly looks her in the eye and says, you must go to him. It's like, what? I'm totally okay with that being the conclusion because he loves her. That's the point. But I mean, he's still human. He's still, well, he actually is a beast, but I mean, he's a
human on the inside.
He's human on the inside. He's flawed, isn't he? Isn't that the whole point of this movie, that he's heavily flawed? And you're just going to tell me he instantly jumps on board with that? No thought at all? Oh, God. Anyway, we seem to be talking a lot about acting. I'll start with this.
Go for it.
I gave acting a 5. Some people actually were not bad. I thought Gaston, I forget who plays him, like Luke Evans, I think actually plays him. I liked LeFou.
Pretty good casting on Gaston too, by the way.
Yeah, I thought so as well. He really did look like him.
Too bad it wasn't a better movie, but he played him well.
Yeah, and I liked Kevin Kline's character too. Despite his weird song, I did like him. He was nice. He was just like a nice little old man. But the animated servants, holy shit. Did you realize what a star-studded cast that was? I did not.
Yeah, by the end of it was like, oh, wait, that was Ewan McGregor? Oh, wait, that was Gandalf? Like, that was Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yeah, it's like, oh, hello, I am a Frenchman.
I could have just been any old Frenchman doing a really bad French accent, but actually, it's Ewan McGregor. They paid me a whole lot of money to be in this movie.
Yeah, that was... And then the dresser is apparently a Tony Award-winning Broadway actress. No, and so the only person who can sing in this entire cast, and they explicitly tell you her character keeps falling asleep, so she can't. It's just like, okay, well, good thing we have Emma Watson, I guess.
Or Emma Watson's Vocaloid.
God. And then finally, Emma Watson. I mean... She can't act.
Hatsune Watson.
Hatsune Watson. God. She can't act. I mean, she just can't. She's not a good actress. She can only play this stuck-up, nerdy, self-absorbed girl. Not even a woman, a girl. And I get like why they cast her, right? Because it's like, oh, Belle loves books. Who's an actress that's played a character that also loves books? Oh, Emma Watson played Hermione. Hermione loves books, Sure, let's do that. But she just didn't look like Belle. She was too like bony and
tiny,
just like tiny and weird. And I just didn't think of Belle when I didn't think of a princess when I saw her. I'm sorry, like I didn't. But I felt like I was actually. This is what this movie felt like. Hermione is in the Hogwarts castle. And she like drank too much at the pumpkin juice ball or whatever the they're doing in stupid Wizardland, and she like passes out on the Hogwarts couch, and this is her weird like drunken fantasy dream. is like her falling in love with the Beast, and then she wakes up and it's like Crumb, like looking at her from across the room or something, and that's why she dates him.
Yeah, she fell in love with him pretty quick. I think she's got one of those furry fetishes. You know what I'm saying?
His beast, I've been dreaming of his beast. Is it huge? It's gotta be. Come on, I'll bet you anything he's bigger than Gaston.
This is actually a movie about furry acceptance.
This is really progressive.
It's so progressive. We weren't even ready for the topic.
It'll sink in. People will get it in 20 years.
We had so many other things on our list that like we were ready to check off, and they just like jumped down to point number 195. Furries.
Oh man.
Oh god.
Anyway, let's see. Pacing, acting, story, directing. I guess that's the last straw here.
Yeah. What did you put?
3 out of 10. I don't know. There was none of the. It's one of these comic book universes, basically, and so there's no originality in anything. It's a movie made by a factory, and this was a factory. So yeah, 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. This like honestly, so just drum roll, just everybody get ready, drum roll. All right, we had a whole talk last review about how I don't explore enough with my ratings. I stick too close to 5. Okay, so just get yourself ready. I gave directing a 0 out of 10.
Fatality.
Directing is a straight 0. Okay.
Wow, that's a big you.
That is a big you. Yes, it is. Honestly, there was no director to this movie. This felt like. So okay, your high school basketball team is in the state championships, but the basketball coach gets sick. And so, like, the captain of the team has to kind of coach them. And so they all have these disparate styles. Like, one, loves to shoot, one loves to dribble, one sliding all over the place, and, like, they can't coordinate, and they get knocked out, and they learn a valuable lesson about teamwork. Wow. That's what this movie was.
And you explained it in a basketball analogy. I totally understand.
A headless chicken works, too, I guess.
Yes.
It's just there's no direction. This movie jumped from one style to another, one pace to another, one theme to another. This suffered from, and I'm starting to think that this is a problem internally within Disney, that because this suffers from the Force Awakens effect.
Yep.
Where it's just a race.
This is a racehorse
by committee. By committee, exactly. It's just. This felt like they were trying to satisfy demographics. It's like, okay, well, we need to put in this scene to make this group of people clap in the theater.
They're doing the Netflix thing.
Yeah, exactly. They were running the Stranger Things algorithm, and just churning out bullshit, and it just doesn't come up with a cohesive story.
In the end, I guess I sort of have to give this the same kind of pass I gave Passengers, in that Passengers was a romance movie, so we have to judge it sort of on that basis, and this was a kids movie. I know you didn't have kids in your audience, but this was a kids movie. My audience was filled with kids having a great time. Little girls. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was at least effective as a children's movie.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. For me, actually, we should tally up our scores here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so mine was a 35%.
Yeah, mine came at a 37.5.
This is like a garbage movie. Just don't see it. Right? This is a 30-minute review. We just saved you an hour and a half, and we hope you had some fun.
Yeah.
Just don't go see that movie. I mean, honestly, this is one of the worst movies I've ever watched, actually.
If you want to simulate this movie's experience, you can toss yourself in a dryer with a bunch of glow sticks. It's roughly the same.
And a recording of a dying cat. And then look at a picture of Emma Watson.
Oh, man.
Anyway, thanks so much for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this review. Please like, share, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook. And if you are feeling really generous, you can donate to us on Patreon. So thanks again for listening, everybody. And we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.